situation's not great at airports right now.
Yeah.
How much worse could it get if this shutdown continues?
Well, believe it or not, right now we're managing, right? So you have maybe a dozen airports where there's hot spots that could be a 30-minute, 60-minute. We've seen some on a couple weekends ago, upwards of 2 or 3 hour waits, and you've seen some of those long lines. For the most part, they're managed in that the TSA has emergency deployment teams. They kind of move into place. They can add some and supplement with where the call-outs might be and where the higher traffic, especially given spring break, might be. So again, it's been managed. Folks, we tell everyone, don't cancel your flights. You might have to give yourself a little extra time going to some of these airports. But at the end of the day, the issue is really about just, the federal government paying their own employees. I mean, we've talked about this before. It's common sense. It's the most basic thing that you have to do. And remember, DHS isn't unfunded because of the big, beautiful bill that ICE and CBP and parts of Homeland Security, they are funded because they've gotten billions of dollars. It's really TSA that takes the hit. And these are some of the lowest paid employees that have been going on. They just got a zero paycheck. They're going into their 4th week of not being paid. Imagine averaging $35,000 a year. 3 or 4 weeks is a lot, right? If you're a single mom and you're working, you're TSO and you're working, and all of a sudden you're not bringing a paycheck home for 4 weeks, well, that's real pressure on the system, and that will continue to build. So I don't think we're in crisis mode. Hopefully we don't get to crisis mode. I think there's huge opportunity for folks here in Washington to say, okay, they may not have liked Secretary Noem, fine. The president said, fine. He moved her out. He capitulated there. They wanted more body cameras. They're installing those. They wanted some calmness and some stability to be brought into Minnesota. They've done that. So I think the Republicans have actually done a pretty good job of saying, okay, we'll give in on these issues, but we got to fund this thing, as a whole. Democrats aren't moving right now. Leadership is not talking, and that's probably the most frustrating part. It's not that they disagree on major points. They're literally not entering the room and having discussions at the table. That's hard.
Well, we know that typically when it comes time to difficult negotiations like this, they like to operate on a deadline. Usually there's the deadline of the whole government's going to shut down at midnight if we don't do this now. This is obviously much smaller in scale. So I wonder if you see any kind of deadline. You mentioned spring break. Easter's coming up. I'm supposed to travel with a 7-month-old over Easter. I'm a little nervous about that right now, I got to say, given what's going on. Is that a realistic deadline, do you think, or is there a problem right now that there is not?
No, because there's no deadline, right? It's when the crisis hits, maybe Washington will finally do their job. So that's this arbitrary moving target. It's not going to be what we saw in October. You had air traffic controllers. You had delayed and canceled flights. You don't have that this time. Flights are taking off and landing just fine. The airspace is terrific. It's just literally getting into the door of those airports. So the crisis, if there is one, would only be a regional piece. It would be this airport there or that airport there, and you just don't know when or how it's going to come. Would that be, if we had an issue at one airport 4 weeks from now in the Midwest somewhere, is that enough to all of a sudden get leadership to start talking again? That would be a very weird thing. So they have to be proactive about it. Both sides need to actually say, okay, what do we need to do to end this? The new secretary, Mark Wayne Mullen, hopefully will be in early April. Maybe that's an opportunity just in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully he doesn't get there, but that could be an opportunity because he is a former senator, or will have been a former senator at that time. He has friends on the Democrat side. They know how he works. He respects and understands that process. Another opportunity, I think, for both sides to come together in a leadership position and say, here's our discussion points. But right now it's not even really clear what they disagree on, because they're so close, if you will. It's all very blurry, and at the end of the day, who suffers? The American public. Like the traveling American public goes, what should I be doing with my travel plans? The answer is keep your travel plans. You might just have to give yourself a little extra time. Maybe look ahead, see if your airport is one where the lines are a little longer, 30-minute, 60-minute waits. All that data is available online. If you go to the airport websites, it's usually there. So I think that the folks at TSA are doing a tremendous job. Please say thank you, by the way. Have some patience. They're under as much stress as anybody to move folks through that line quickly. The last thing they need is, again, as a customer, you can be frustrated. It's not their fault. It is not their fault. In fact, we need to thank them for all the hard work they're doing. I think Ha McNeil, who runs TSA, Rodney Scott, who runs CBP, they're doing a tremendous job keeping morale up, keeping their staff moving forward. They deserve a lot of credit as well. So things are moving in terms of management. They're just not moving in terms of that Capitol Hill building that sits behind you there. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. As we consider as well that all of this is happening against a backdrop of a war in the Middle East, there's questions about whether or not there's domestic threats that could be inspired by the war against Iran. But we have also seen, for airlines specifically, it having a very disruptive effect in what are global airline hubs. We saw Dubai's airport have to close down just today. What is the cascading effect of that?
Well, believe it or not, the number one cascading effect is the price of oil, right? So remember, the folks that are flying today probably bought their ticket 6 or 12 weeks ago. So they bought that ticket there's a lag in the price, right? What we're going to see is a pretty big disruptor across all the different airlines in terms of as price of oil, goes up 50 to 100% on jet fuel, whatever it might be. You'll see some potential price increases, let's say a month down the road, right? If we don't get the Strait of Hormuz really secured, I'm going to give it till about mid-May before Memorial Day. Because remember, Memorial Day, right before Memorial Day, they come out and say, the price of gas, the price of oil is X, and this is how it will affect summer travel. If by that time we haven't seen any substantial security of that supply chain of 1/5 of the world's energy source, then you could be looking at some long-term price increases. Right now, the price increases could be, hopefully they're temporary, they're just bumps in the road, they're nothing that really impact people's desire to travel. But as we hit those summer months, what happens with FIFA? Right, we have this amazing American opportunity of all these international folks coming in, both in terms of safety and security. I think CBP and TSA are doing a great job doing as much of the technology, innovation, and implementation for those security protocols that have to happen around the FIFA World Cup, where you'll see maybe millions of people come in across the world for that. Great opportunity. We don't want to miss it. So on the price of oil, I think we're going to hit a little bump in the road unless we get to around Memorial Day. Then it could be a little more of a long-term impact. But remember, flying domestically is still the most affordable thing you can do. The average price of a ticket today is less than it was in 2019. It's not just bucked inflation, it's actually deflationary. I think the average price of anything else has gone up about 26-30% since 2019. Our prices have gone down 3%. So what happens? More families are traveling before, more opportunity for folks than ever before. We're seeing record numbers. To have politics disrupt that for the American people is so silly and such a terrible sign of where our system is politically.